So we were starting to notice that less was perhaps going to be more.
Yeah.
You're a busy man, you've got a family, you've got a young family, so sleep's not always easy.
Yeah.
What do you think we sort of learned from looking at your sleep data and maybe doing some orthostatic tests and checking really your recovery status?
Well, the sleep data's been amazing. I mean, I didn't really realise just how sort of all over the place my sleep patterns are. In fact, when I shared some of the data with you guys, and some of it might have ended up on the internet, it's a little bit embarrassing, for my friends to see when I'm going to bed and when I'm getting up. People are saying to me,
Big Brother's watching you.
Do you really get up at 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's like, who does? But actually, yeah, it was really valuable to be able to see, just how those sleep patterns fluctuate, and actually you can see when you're not getting enough, and those correlate really nicely into the training sessions on the following day. So if you have a feeling that you haven't trained as well the following day, and then you look back at the sleep data, more often than not you can see that's because you've only had sort of 5 hours, or it's not good continuous
so the
sleep.
quality of the sleep became important.
Yeah.
And really having periods of sleep where there weren't too many, should we say, movements or interruptions. You were getting better quality, and we were searching for that. But we were starting to move the training around to fit when you were ready to train, rather than just following the training plan.
Yeah, and I think that definitely helped after we had that conversation, shifting a few sessions. We didn't necessarily change the intensity of the sessions or what they were, but we moved them to different days that helped. They fitted in around my life a lot better. And that changed it immediately. You could see from looking at the recovery information on the watch that rather than overreaching, I came straight back into the green zone, and from there on in, my body coped comfortably with what we were asking it to do. So
now, all marathon runners really worry and fixate about their long runs, quite rightly too. It puts the tiger in the cat. The long runs are a key component for any marathon training, but for you, what did you learn about your long runs, and perhaps working to power again as well as heart rate?
Where I train is often I'm in the New Forest, and I've faced quite a lot of undulating tracks, really. Basically, some of it's off-road, some of it's on tarmac. And so power was really very useful for me to go out and do my long runs and try and hit a certain intensity, and use power when I hit the up sections and the down sections in order to kind of to keep me on point, basically.
And that might mean you reduce pace.
Absolutely.
And try and control heart rate a little bit, but it's power you're controlling.
Yeah. So I could run to a steady power even when I hit those inclines. And then and that went for the sort of the flats and the inclines, and it kind of, what I describe as kind of flattens out the hills for you.
Now, you did a half marathon a number of weeks before the marathon where we were trying to run it at marathon pace and trying to get some data for power stats, but also confidence for you, which a lot of marathon runners search for in the weeks leading up to the marathon. So what did you do there?
So we did a half marathon, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before, and we ran to marathon pace. I got a little bit overexcited, I won't lie, which probably happens quite often. And you could see from my pace stats that they were occasionally a little bit high. But what I learned from that, I got the average wattage for the half marathon, and that I took into the main race. And then 22 miles into the main marathon, Seville, I was able to say, well, okay, I'm still within sort of 10 or 20 watts below what I was running in the half marathon, and so I had some confidence there. I knew I had a bit of a buffer in order to complete the race for those last 4 miles. I knew there was kind of more in the tank. I could look down and basically have a little bit of confidence.
So that day really gave you the confidence, but it gave you the data to believe in, knowing that it was true. Now, just before the race, let's also be open about this. 2 weeks before the race, you come down with a cold and a chest infection. Every runner's worst nightmare. Big conversation. You're not going to lose fitness. Trust the coach. Let's get better. Let's rest. How did that feel, and what did you do?
Immediate panic. It's the last thing that you need. Having put in so much work, you want to go out and do a good job. And we eased off, and we used the data that we got from the watch to basically inform what we do next. So you set me the challenge every now and again of going out and doing an easy run, see how the heart responded, and then we worked off of that, right? We eased back off the training, and we basically checked that I was going to be recovered in time to run the race right. And it was really useful to be able to use the watch and the heart rate data to basically see that.
Yeah, we were checking your resting heart rate in the morning, we were checking you were sleeping well, and at the same time, once Kieran was ready to run, we were just going out and doing 30 minutes, really, really easy, around about zone 2, and when he can get his heart rate there completely settled and he felt comfortable, then after a few days of doing that, we were maybe ready to push harder. But of course the marathon's now about to happen. Even the day before we did another run like that to check you were okay. talk us through the marathon. What happened then? And you were using power now, and what wattage were you working to?
So I worked to about 390 watts, which was beneath actually the threshold pace that we found in the lactate test when we did it at St Mary's. And you know, the brilliant thing about Seville is that it's a conveniently sort of flat marathon. There's basically 2 slight inclines, so that took away some of the risk there of hills. But I was able to set my watch up so I had pace and I had power as my main metrics on the watch, and I could look down and use those 2 in combination basically to ensure that I ran a very, very smart race. And actually, if you look at the stats after, my power is very, very even. And you know, again, that's a real sort of confidence booster when you can look down and you know that your wattage is maintaining, regardless of maybe what happens with the pace. It gives you the confidence to know that this is within my grasp. It's actually within my range, and if I stick to this for the entire race, I'm going to be fine. Which is pretty much what I did. You know, any marathon you struggle for the last 6 miles and you have to dig a little bit deeper. But I think the stats prove that running on power as well as pace really, really benefited.
And a really interesting thing with Kieran's stats is if you look at his heart rate, in the second half of the marathon, you'll see his heart rate starts to climb, which is normal because we've got heart rate variability. There's elements of dehydration as well, but his power stats are really, really consistent throughout the whole race, and the pace is pretty good.
And I think the good thing for me was that I didn't, if I see my heart rate rising, you know, in the past there's a tendency to maybe panic a little bit, and you think, okay, this is, you know, things are starting maybe to go wrong. But I could look down at my power, and you know, mile to mile my power output's the same and it's still consistent, and it gave me that kind of confidence to know that I was still, you know, I was on track and to keep doing what I was doing.
So my big question before we finish really is, going forwards in training, will you now be using power as well as heart rate as a really useful and key metric to guide you in the efforts and the way you should train?
Absolutely, and I totally recommend it to other runners out there. And I know it can, as a new metric, some people might feel like it's a little bit daunting, but you know, actually I just see it as, it's almost just a simple, you can consider it in the sort of same way as you do pace. It's just another number to run to that helps guide you basically. And I found it really effective as as an add-on in my training and in my racing.
Well, power is instant and it's very, very accurate. If you use the Polar Vantage V series, you really will see there just the type of data that you can start to get. Crucially as well, when put up against heart rate and using your pace, you've got all the metrics you need to run a fantastic marathon and train really intelligently. Kieran, thank you very much. Congratulations on a superb marathon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your help.